Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow. I'm Sunanda Jayasheelan. You're joining us on this 10th edition, 10 seasons of recognizing excellence, 10 seasons of identifying champions. Today, we are with someone who's achieved excellence in her chosen field of work. She's talking about a book that she's just released on her life, giving us a very sneak peek and a very intimate view, really, of what her growing up was like, leading to the historic decision of her becoming the chairman of SBI. Yes, it's my pleasure to welcome on the show tonight, Arundhati Bhattacharya. Arundhati Bhattacharya, what a pleasure to have you here with us on the Leaders of Tomorrow. Thank you so much for taking the time, ma'am, to join us.
Thank you so much, Sunanda. My pleasure entirely.
I want to start by talking about the headline and really, the name of the book, Indomitable. You do give us a sense of why you have chosen to go with this title for your book. But for those of our viewers who perhaps haven't had the chance to read your book yet, could you give us a sense of, why you've decided to go with this title for your book?
Actually speaking, that word in that book doesn't only pertain to me. It pertains to so many women. They cross so many barriers and so many obstacles to get where they're getting. And I have, dozens of stories of such people who have fought all kinds of odds and got what they have got. So women as a race, I think, are quite indomitable.
My question to you is, though, has perhaps some of the success been bittersweet in some sense? Because in the book, for instance, you're talking about how SBI was not legally allowed to change your designation to become chairperson or chairwoman. It had to be chairman. So has some of the success perhaps, it's been hard fought, definitely, and, won, but bittersweet in some sense?
Sometimes I think, these are small issues and we shouldn't, sort of make it bitter because like it says, don't go after the small ones, pick the big fights.
Sure.
So, chairman or chairwoman didn't really make that much of a difference. After all, the word woman contains the word man in it, right? So to that extent, these are issues, I think, which are okay. You'd have been more comfortable otherwise and more proud to have won that chairperson title. But even otherwise, it didn't make too much of a difference. As I said, there were too many issues around and I thought, let's not look after the small things and let's go after the big ones. But bittersweet, well, in sometimes, yes, because, there have been a lot of adjustments I've had to do on my family front. But other than that, I think more or less, yep, it's been pretty good.
One of the things that you lay great emphasis on in your book is the role of education. And in the initial pages, you talk about some sadness that your mother felt because the kind of education that your sister, perhaps your older sister, was perhaps, looking to get. The options that were available in that period were not very easy. Have things really changed when it comes to the quality of education, not just in your tier 1 towns? I know EdTech has, in some sense, leveled the gaps that you were seeing, but has enough really been done since, when you were growing up?
I don't really think so. I think the democratization of education and also getting the right syllabus in, both of these things, they are evolving things and a lot still needs to be done.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it that the quality of pedagogy, the quality of materials that are provided in the smaller cities and the smaller towns or in the villages is far less, not as superior. I would say far inferior to what you can get in the best of schools, okay, in any of the metros. Having said that, we also must realize one thing, that education is not only about school learning. Education is also about your surroundings. What you see in your surroundings, what you absorb from your surroundings, what are the books you are reading, what are the movies you're watching. So, education can be imparted in many, many ways. And I think, those people who have the maturity to learn from the surroundings, to learn from life itself, that makes a great education. How do you see some of the stars coming out of the villages? They haven't had that quality of education either. Whereas you do see people coming from excellent schools, scoring very well in the schools, and yet not being able to make a mark later on in life. Okay. So I think, if you look at education in the broader sense, while yes, the curriculum is something that needs to be looked at and it has to be constantly refreshed so that it is more in line with modern or with the current requirements, the dissemination of material has to be far better, and that is feasible today because of the of edtech being so easily available. The third thing that you need to look at is different people's different style and pace of learning.
Yeah.
So, one size fits all doesn't really work, because there are people over there who are very, very creative. If you lock them into a syllabus and tell them that the answers have to be exactly A, B, C, D, E, otherwise marks will be cut, you are actually, restricting their creativity and not allowing it to bloom. It's like making a bonsai out of a banyan tree. You don't want to do that, right? It's done forcefully. You don't want to do that. You want it to allow it to really fruit and flower. So, you have to have different ways of doing this.
Sure.
And last but not least, I think, is that education comes from the ecosystem, and therefore the ecosystem has to be conducive. If you're more worried about the next meal that's coming for you, if you're unwell and not able to get yourself, properly looked at, and proper medical help is not forthcoming, then that also, hampers education. So I think, we need to look at education a little more holistically. And yes, whether there is work to be done, there is an enormous amount of work to be done, but it cannot also be denied that today the opportunities are far more, and the amount that we have progressed is not to be sneezed at.
We're talking in the backdrop of the budget announcement by the FM. And since we're talking about technology and digital, I do want to make mention of one announcement that she made as far as the digital university is concerned, talking about skilling, reskilling. I'll come to skilling and reskilling in just a moment, but also about skilling of the teachers, skilling of the educators, because they require the skill sets that are required if they're going to bring this new generation along to the jobs that are going to come up in the future. Do you think enough is being done on that front? Would you like to see more being done?
I would definitely like to see more being done, because, I remember even with very simple tools, our teachers used to give us so many examples that, they have stuck in my mind all this while. For instance, I give a lot of people this example about, why should there be inclusive growth in society? That's a very simple question. What is the requirement? Why should it be like that? So I think, teachers' education is not only important, it is also important to recognize that our teachers are not the best paid. Our teachers are not the best, they are not really sort of remunerated the way they should be remunerated. So we are not getting the best people to become teachers. And it is the best people that need to become teachers. So I think, yes, I need to see a lot more done over there. And, giving them more doesn't necessarily mean that, you are simply giving more for the same content. You are giving more to people who are delivering content that is over and above what is there just on the books. So I think, we need a better assessment system of how they are doing, how their class is doing, what is the awareness they're creating, what is the maturity they are creating.
I want to talk about skilling and just go back to what we were discussing previously and quote a survey by the WA Future of Jobs report. Ma'am, I'm sure you've seen this. This is more for the benefit of our viewers. The survey is saying that 50% of everyone would need to be reskilled in the next 4 to 5 years. So if you are reskilling because of the double disruption, as the report calls it, of the pandemic and automation, what should you keep in mind if you're doing that?
Okay, we obviously have to keep in mind what the future is going to look like.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think, there is some little bit of good news that I would like to share. Salesforce has recently done a survey on the global digital skills readiness. And this was done by talking to 23,500 respondents in 19 countries. This is basically, believe me, a survey that is done by taking the common person and asking them questions, okay, as to how digitally ready they feel they are. Digitally meaning digital skill ready.
Sure.
And actually speaking, India tops that chart with 66 out of 100, followed by Brazil with 58. And not only that, when you look at, whether they were skilling themselves in digital skills, India actually reports a score of 72 as against a global average of 28. And even better than that is the fact that if you take away the men and just the women, you find that 74% of the women are actually saying that they are skilling themselves digitally. Not only that, if you look at the baby boomers, that is the older generation, our generation actually, people born before the 1960s, it is their score of how many of them are skilling themselves digitally is actually 80 plus. So, if you look at it as a country, I think, while we stand to lose a lot, that is another report that Accenture did, I think, that says that India will lose 2.3% of its GDP annually if they don't skill themselves digitally. While we stand to lose a lot if we don't skill ourselves digitally, we seem to be doing the right things in getting the skills across. Okay. And not only that, I think, again, as I said, you need to think about what the jobs in the future will look like. And frankly speaking, I don't think anybody has a very clear idea of it, exactly to what level it will go. So in order to make people ready for that, what you need to do is give them the skills to learn quickly on the job, to unlearn earlier skills, and to reskill themselves quickly. And it's a constant process.
Ma'am, I have to take a very quick break on that note. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. And tonight, our Leaders of Tomorrow icon is none other than Arundhati Bhattacharya. I have one more question on your book. In fact, this is coming to us from a female entrepreneur herself, Swati Bhargava, the founder of Cash Karo, sending us this question.
Thank you, Mrs. Bhattacharya. That was amazing. My name is Swati and I'm the co-founder of cashkaro.com. Previously, I've spent 5 years at Goldman Sachs in London. So I was just curious, what is the most difficult challenge you faced in your corporate journey?
Regarding what is the biggest challenge that came across? I think the biggest challenge was, creating the reputation that you are a person who could be relied on to deliver. Often I think, no matter how good you are, there is some doubt in the minds of people as to whether a woman leader will prioritize family over work and not be able to deliver on time. Now you have to create a reputation for yourself so that, your path gets smoothened as you move ahead. And that reputation of yourself gets created in the early years. So, in the early years, you really and truly have to, make that extra effort to create that reputation for yourself. And again, something that I continuously tell my people is that, your presence should be felt. Your absence should never be felt.
I want to talk about your role at SBI, not so much your role, but what that experience really taught you. Coming in from outside, creating history, being the first chairman of SBI in 2013. I'm sure there were many challenges along your way, but what did that period really teach you? And did you feel perhaps in some sense that you were always meant to, be taking that role, that all your experiences along the way had made you ready for that?
I didn't feel that always, but I thought, that if I got a shot at it, I wouldn't do a bad job. Okay. I definitely felt that. But, once you actually joined the work, you forgot all about it. It's like, a distant star. Who's going to look at that star and remember it all the time? So you look at what is on the ground and you try and tackle it on a daily basis and do the best job that you can. But I think, because of that reputation of being able to deliver, I did get the chances of rotating into very important seats. And sometimes when they appeared to be not important, I was lucky enough to be able to convert them into something really important. That's also very, something that is to be learned. So, it all depends upon how you look at your job and how you make it important by showing them what is the best way of doing it. And the best example of that I've given as the CGM new business. When I went into that job, many of my batchmates told me that, nothing much happens over there. So you're literally getting buried. And this was a month before the chief general manager's interview. So, they were 100% sure that I was getting buried. But, when I went in there, believe me, in that 1 year, 8 months of being in that department has been some of the most productive times of my life. I set up SBI General Insurance. I set up SBI Custodial Services. I operationalized SBI Pension Funds. I set up the SBI Equity Fund with Macquarie. I launched the mobile banking platform. I launched another platform for financial inclusion that didn't really work. But okay, it was launched all the same. So there were so many things I did. In a space of 1 year, 8 months, I did 3 joint ventures. And joint ventures, believe me, is not very easy to negotiate. Yeah. There are negotiations and negotiations and negotiations, sometimes tough ones, sometimes bitter ones, sometimes good ones. But the fact is, I did manage to do it. So, something that people say, you shouldn't go by what they are saying. Go in there yourself and have a look and see what you can do about it. And the more you get these different kinds of experiences and the different kinds of challenges, the better prepared you will be for the corner suite. Okay. So if you ask me, did I feel ready? Yes, I think I felt ready. I was quite sure that I'd be able to do a good job there. And I did want the opportunity because I thought that I had ideas which could be a little differentiated and which, if I could bring them across, they definitely would be of use.
I have a question which is coming to us from someone who is a name to reckon with herself. She is a very well-known fashion designer, dresses the stars, doesn't need much other introduction. Her name is Reena Dhaka. Reena, yeah, go ahead. What is your question, Reena?
Hi, good evening. Namaste. मैं हूँ रीना ढाका. मैं अरुंधति जी से क्या पूछूं? मैं ये पूछना चाहूँगी कि even if मैं अपना example देती हूँ, even if I'm a reasonably successful entrepreneur, I really don't know easy financial saving tips or especially, current updates के साथ. So if she can share what is a wise systematic investment a woman with medium or small income can do monthly or on a daily basis. Thank you.
Reena, the first question that was asked regarding financial savings. Sunanda, if you remember in the very first beginning when we talked about education and curriculum, I was saying that the curriculum needs changing. This is one of the areas that I was talking about. Money and wealth are two things and health is another. So wealth and health, I would say, are the two things in our lives that we will need right to the end of our days. If that is the case, why is financial planning not taught from our schools? Why are we not made aware as to how to do financial savings? It's very important. The moment you start earning, you should be doing a few things. Now, if you're asking me what are the simple savings tips, I would say, first and foremost, get somebody to look at the amount of disposable income you have every month. Out of the disposable income, at least save 50%. Okay. The rest you can keep for your own expenses. And you should start very early in life. The moment you start earning, that day you start saving, because the power of compounding is huge and we don't realize it. Actually saving 300% 10 years later will end up in giving you far less savings than if you saved right from day one. So don't lose the time span that you have in which to save. So start saving from day one. And there are very simple things that you can do. Open a PPF account. The PPF account is one of the simplest stuff that you can do. And, you keep putting money there. The second is, ensure that if there is a requirement for security at home, that you buy enough insurance. Okay. The third is, if you're not a stock market expert, and most of us aren't, just go and invest in a few mutual funds. Get a few people to tell you, or just go through the newspapers as to which mutual fund has been doing how, and look at it over a longer period of time, not a 1-year performance. Look at a 5-year performance and see whether that mutual fund has been doing well. Go put money in over there. These are very, very simple things to do. And mutual funds, by the way, you can buy yourself on the website, and there are no charges for such direct purchases. So, very simple things to do, but you must get a demat account. You must get a PPF account. These are the first things you do along with your salary account.
I have a second question from Swati Bhargava of Cash Karo on really working in a traditional and a typical male-oriented industry. I know banking is not, you see a lot of women at the top when it comes to the banking space, but maybe we could look at some other industries as well. Swati, what is your question?
Mrs. Bhattacharya, you've been so inspirational always. And my question is that would you have any advice for female entrepreneurs who are trying to break into a traditionally male-dominated industry?
When you get into a male-dominated industry, remember that you don't have to become like a male in order to get in there, okay? You can retain your style, your way of doing things. But remember this, that there is a lot of scrutiny about what you're doing. So, whatever you deliver, you need to deliver at a level which is a little plus above what is getting delivered generally. And one other skill I think that is very important to have while doing this is a communication skill. You should also be able to talk about what you're doing. You shouldn't allow that. You should allow people to know what are your achievements, how you have done it, how you have achieved it.
Thank you so much for your time here on the show, ma'am. We've run completely out of time. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our contact details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.